Hello and welcome back to a very special Euro Football Daily video where, to celebrate the return of the Ukrainian Premier League, we've been given exclusive access to a member of staff at Shakhtar Donetsk and their captain, Taras Stepanenko, who joins me here today. He's been capped 71 times by Ukraine and is the captain, as I say, of Shakhtar Donetsk. They had their first game in the Ukrainian Premier League today, since February, I believe, when the league was officially suspended in 21-22. It had been called to a close in December of the previous year, but it came back today and they drew their first game against Metalist 1925. This opportunity was arranged by Pitch In for Ukraine, a phenomenal charity, which you will hear about in more detail from Alex Mamalya, the marketing director of Shakhtar Donetsk, with that interview coming up during this video as well. They're doing phenomenal work in Ukraine to raise money for the victims of Russia's horrendous invasion. But I've only got Taras Stepanenko for a set amount of time. I think it might be 5 or 10 minutes. So I'm just going to dive straight in with my first question, Taras. You know, you've waited so long for the return of football in Ukraine. How did it feel to be out on that pitch again? It must have been absolutely euphoric.
Hello to all. Nice to be here with you. And yes, today, I think it's the first time in the history of the football is we play football when there is a war in Ukraine now. It's a very dangerous situation, and to be honest, I was a little bit afraid because today, the 23 and 24, it's the day of independence of Ukraine. It's very dangerous because it can be everything. I don't know what plan have Russia Federation. I don't know, but for football, it's very nice, very good emotions. We play first match, and the atmosphere was very good. It's difficult without supporters, but I think a lot of people watch the game on the TV, and so I am so happy we start to play football in Ukraine.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's going to provide so much hope and relief to so many people during such a horrendous time for the people of Ukraine. Taras, can you explain to me a little bit what it's been like as a footballer in Ukraine since the invasion started in February?
For football players, for me, it was first experience very difficult because for about 6 months I changed a lot of countries. My family were in different countries, from Romania to Spain. I traveled a lot. Sometimes for 2 months I didn't have training, and I have to prepare myself mentally and physically, and it was difficult when we play for the national team, very strong matches. When we play for Shakhtar charity matches, it's a very difficult situation. And I think all Ukrainian players, they're strong guys with strong mentality, and they have coped with this situation and start to play football.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't even begin to imagine the sort of mental fortitude you've had to show during this period. What impact do you think the return of football can have on the people of Ukraine? Because it must be an enormous boost to their confidence and provide a little bit of a distraction in such difficult times.
I think it's important for Ukrainian people because like me, a citizen of Ukraine, when you every morning you wake up, you take the phone and start to read the news, and you see very bad news. Children died, people died, destroyed houses, and it's very difficult for you. But football sport can give to people some very good emotion. Okay, it's maybe for 90 minutes, but it's important. And when people watch on TV the football, they will think, okay, today I can relax a little bit for 90 minutes and enjoy the play of your favorite team. And I think it's very, very good, and we live that moment until today. We live for this moment when we will start the championship.
Could you please explain a little bit about Pitch In for Ukraine and the work they're doing, and what you expect the money that is donated, hopefully in the next week, in the next 2 weeks, what will that go toward?
Well, basically we started working on this project right after the invasion actually began, so it was March. And the idea behind this project was not only to try and collect donations, but also to provide football fans with something of value for them. And since we don't play for like 8 years in our home stadium, um, it's really hard for us to provide something of a physical thing, or an actual item. So we thought that creating a digital blueprint of the Donbass arena and then splitting it into 154,000 individual pieces is something which we could do. And we know that the pitch is one of the like holy grails for any football fan. So we thought it would be a great sort of thank you for donating to this project. And we sign up with the United 24, which is one of the biggest donation and sort of humanitarian projects over here in Ukraine. We also have Shakhtar Social Foundation. We are running shelter in the west of the country for all those people who were moved from the east, and we're also doing some additional things. We're basically providing different sort of help for those people who were internally moved, as well as some help for the soldiers, like medkits, things like that. And we also have a third partner, which is Saving Lives Foundation, who are pretty much doing exactly the same. But these are probably three of the biggest foundations which work on humanitarian projects in Ukraine right now, and that's why we believe that this is the optimum mix for us, that for anyone who will donate, the money will not be wasted or spent, God knows how. It's going to go directly to the people in need. So this was very important for us.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about the fact that Shakhtar Donetsk have been on the road. They've been in exile for 8 years since pro-Russian separatists started the sort of conflict in Donetsk in 2014. For you guys as players, does it feel like this conflict is just never going to end because it's been going on for so long?
When it began, I thought that okay, it's maybe for short period of time, and I returned to Donetsk to play in Donbass Arena. I had house in Donetsk, and I dreamed to live in Donetsk. It's very nice, very good city. But since 2014 we live in Kiev, and now the difficult situation, war in all territory of Ukraine, and I don't know when for every moment you live with this emotion, with thoughts about you can leave your country because of invasion. It's mentally very difficult. When it started the war, when I saw the eyes of my children, I was very afraid. It's and I don't know how feel people who moved from Donetsk, from Kharkiv, where it's very difficult situation, Mariupol. So we should be strong for our families, for our country, and we have to win in this war.
Yeah, you absolutely have to win, and the watching world is completely behind you, and the people in the UK absolutely 100% behind you as well as this war continues. I wanted to ask you a little bit about last season. So obviously your league was stopped in February officially, but you saw the likes of Zinchenko and Mykolenko in the Premier League and Malinovsky performing so well in Serie A. Was that a big inspiration to footballers in Ukraine?
Of course, all Ukrainian people now have strong relationship, strong coalition. All Ukrainian people around the world try to support each other, and when like players you mentioned give the message to European countries, to British countries, is very important, because in this situation should know worldwide, and the guys already done very big work, and when we talk about it in the national team, they feel our pain, they feel pain of the Ukrainian people, and they want to help, and they give everything that they have.
How would it work in terms of the practicalities of the game? Obviously there won't be fans in attendance, but I've heard there's going to be air raid sirens at all the stadiums, etc. What are you expecting in terms of the practical needs that need to be put in place to protect the players and the clubs?
We can't predict whether there's going to be any air raids, obviously, but we are fully prepared. Safety is our first priority, so we make sure there are safe places at the stadium. So if the siren will go up, then the game will be stopped, and then the teams and everybody else will be moved to the safe location. And then depending on how much the air raid alert will last, then the game will either resume or will be moved to a different time slot, maybe next day or maybe the day after that. So it will really depend on the circumstances, but no attendance and safety first. So that's how we're planning to do this.
I wanted to ask you about the ruling in June that was from FIFA that allowed players or foreign players in the Ukrainian Premier League to suspend their contracts for a year. And that's meant that 16 players have left Shakhtar Donetsk this summer. How difficult has that been for the remaining players and coaching staff?
Well, how can you see now we already 13 or 14 players left the club. Only Lassina Traoré now with us. He was injured, and I think he will arrive to Ukraine in this week or maybe because he was injured and he's not in condition. But other players left the club. Okay, it's I can't say that it's war in Ukraine. It's very dangerous for the people. It is their choice. But for the club, it's disaster because the club paid for them a lot of money, and now for 1 year, I think three or four players can leave without anything, without compensation. So the FIFA rules, I think it's not correct for the club which have foreign players in the squad. It should be arranged in more like good situation for the club, for the players, and for international football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen big names like David Neres, Dodo, Marcos Antonio, Manuel Solomon as well leave Shakhtar this summer. Does it feel like clubs around Europe have respected the situation that Ukraine and Ukrainian Premier League clubs find themselves in, or does it feel like they've taken advantage of it?
Football is big business. We know about that. And okay, like you mentioned before, like Dodo, David Neres, they were sold, I think. Club received money for them. But other players, like I think Solomon, Tete, Pedrinho, they take the advantage of the rule of FIFA. And this is a problem. Okay, if the club pay for the player, it's no problem. In this situation, the club help to Shakhtar, to Ukraine. But if the club like take players for the FIFA rule, and the club knows that for 1 year, players the contract of players will be finished, it's not good. It's not good like relationship for the. Between the football clubs.
Can you just sort of begin to put into words what it's been like to live in Ukraine over the last 6 months or so? What's been going on a day-to-day basis in terms of your life and the lives of the Shakhtar Donetsk players?
So in the last 6 months, first of all, it was incredibly mentally challenging because you have constant wave after wave of the news, and the news. Sometimes they're good, sometimes not so much, and you need to constantly deal with that. So it's incredibly mentally draining. So this is very tough. On the second bit, again, this is war zone, especially in the east of the country. It's a full-scale war, unprovoked war from our end, and it just a lot of civilian casualties in the first place. I mean, unconfirmed number, like the reported numbers, about 10,000 civilians died, but the real number is probably a lot more than that. Because cities like Mariupol, the whole city pretty much leveled. It's very hard mentally for the whole country, but especially hard for the people who lost everything there. We are running shelter in in Arena Lviv, which is a stadium in the western part of the city. And we have people coming from the east of the country, just basically with kids and with just little bags, like small packets, and that's all they got. So it's incredibly challenging for the country, and especially for the people who are who's been forced to move with basically nothing. And it's heartbreaking. And every time I go there, it's really heartbreaking because those people have not done anything wrong, and they just lost everything, like completely everything. Like they don't even have a spare shirt on them.
I wanted to ask you, Taras, what are your expectations for the upcoming season, and are you excited to be playing in the Champions League again?
Like I said before, in my opinion, this season will be the most difficult in my career because I don't know what will happen tomorrow. And we now have very young squad and very young players. A lot of them they don't have experience to play on this level. So, but we have good team for good Ukrainian players, talented players, and they have possibility to play in Champions League. So, I think it's a good opportunity for them to show how they are strong and to help the Shakhtar keep going on the same level. And I hope it will be okay.
My final question, Taras, is do you have a message for the rest of the world?
Yes, of course. I would like to say, first of all, the words of gratitude for all European countries, for British countries, of course, for England, because these countries help for us a lot for the USA, and the support of international community very important for Ukraine, because we are fighting with a very strong country, military country, and we need help. And with the help of other countries, we can win. It's very important, and Ukraine is a country of the strong, brave people. So with people like this, with our military forces, with our people who stay at home and just help to our military forces and do everything that they can, what possibilities they have. Like me, I would like to do everything for my country. So with that people in my country, we will win. But European Union, Great Britain, USA should help us, and together victory will be with us.
Absolutely, everyone's rooting for that. And as I said earlier in the interview with Alex Mamalya as well, please do click in the comments below, read up on Pitch In for Ukraine, donate to the cause. It really is going towards the victims of the Russian invasion in Ukraine. There's been up to 10,000 casualties, some people estimate, on the Ukrainian side. So they really do need all the hope they can get. Massive thank you to Alex Mamalya and Taras Stepanenko for their time in giving us such an amazing interview on Euro Football Daily. Please do check out that link in the comments section, like the video and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.